What's going on, guys? We are less than 4 months away from the release of Pokemon Legends ZA, the next title in the Legends spin-off series, and I want to use this time to go back and look at a time when Game Freak put on their big boy pants and did something inventive, took a risk, and changed the Pokemon formula up for once in the past 20 years, and achieved one of the greatest games this franchise has ever seen. This is the bravest thing that Game Freak ever did with Pokemon Legends Arceus, how it changed the series when it released, and what it means for the future of the mainline series and new titles with Legends ZA coming out later this year. In 2021, the Pokemon Company released BDSP to the public with mixed reviews, and most consumers feeling dissatisfied with this remake, even though it still sold more than most every other game that year because it's Pokemon. But a few short months later, Game Freak itself would come out swinging with the best Pokemon game thought of, and the execution was pretty much perfect. At midnight on January 28, 2022, Pokemon Legends Arceus came out and shocked the world. For Pokemon fans, this game was like reinventing the wheel. This is everything we have wanted since 1998, walking around the black and white grass of Kanto. I stayed up for a whole night just playing this game and being mind blown by the new mechanics. A super long tutorial, yes, but after that, the game just lets you go, catching Pokemon in the wild, actually catching them in the overworld, distracting them with different items, using certain items on only certain Pokemon. Certain environments yield certain obstacles and other challenges. This was the 3D Pokemon game we have been wanting. Sword and Shield were way too linear and still required battling. Scarlet and Violet came out after this game and still ran worse. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about all the mechanics that weren't in Scarlet and Violet but are in this game, and how the travel mechanic is basically the same. Legends is a spin-off, and Scarlet and Violet were the mainline titles. Now, they had no reason to come out like garbage and run the way they did, but not having the same catching mechanic, I think, was because they are a mainline series and this is not. So let's talk about what made the catching mechanic in Pokemon Legends Arceus so great and addicting, to see if the mainline titles or ZA will carry this over. In Legends Arceus, you have different types of Pokeballs. There are items that you can craft or pick up off the ground, and other Pokemon items that we have seen before in other games and are used the same or a bit differently here when trying to catch Pokemon. Now, every Mon is the same, and the way you catch Mon is different too. Yes, you can run up behind Starlies and Buizles and crit catch those all day, but at some point, you have to sit in the crazy storm, wait for the right Pokemon to come out, make sure your bait is in the right spot, and use the right ball to catch the right Mon with. This is the great balancing act of the catching mechanic. Sometimes you feel like Ash Ketchum just out there wrestling Mon and catching things left and right. Other times you're on a stakeout and waiting for hours for a shiny to pop out in one of those massive mass outbreaks. But there is fun to be had in both playstyles. Trying to beat the story of this game and then trying to complete the Pokédex are very two different tasks, but are still related to each other in this game, which is what I loved about it so much. In every other Pokemon game, it's beat the Elite Four, beat the champion, complete the Dex. You can go have fun now since it's been 60 hours of grinding XP to get here. But Arceus is all about strategy. You either look up a guide, an Austin John Plays video, or just get out there and start getting to work. Because if you want to complete the Dex in this game, you are going to have to try, and you are going to have to try hard. Most Pokemon games, I get the regional Dex no problem and then work on the national Dex as I go or as I need. With Pokemon Home, this makes everything a lot easier. Except with Arceus, I didn't want to use Pokemon Home at all, or cheese the game at all with trading and all that. All I wanted to do was get every Mon the right way and learn each strat for each Pokemon to catch, and it made the game not only have tons of more hours of content, but it didn't feel slow and grindy like most other Pokemon games and their post-game content feels like. This was like a whole nother game had been unlocked, and I was just playing by myself. Most Pokemon games offer a somewhat multiplayer experience, more so with Scarlet and Violet recently, but most of the time, multiplayer and interacting is a big part of the game. Arceus, though, is Pokemon's best single-player experience. Yes, you can trade and stuff if you want, but what makes Arceus so amazing to me is the amount of single-player experience here. Most Pokemon games, I don't get to experience the full 110% of it because I don't have many friends and they are all busy. With Arceus, though, I didn't need to rely on anyone except maybe a couple dozen Austin John videos, and I had the best Pokemon experience of my life. So why is Arceus the best Pokemon experience of all time? Well, for the modern day at least, it comes down to one simple answer. Polish. And creativity. But polish first. Pokemon hasn't had the best run on the Switch, to say the least, so Arceus was needed to show that Game Freak still got it. Yes, the games were selling, because it's Pokemon. But when Arceus came out, the entire community was different. It was a breath of fresh air. And right before Spring 2 was like the perfect release window because it was a new era for the franchise. Game Freak had breathed life into this series once again and made it magical. Legends Arceus is not only a fantastic Pokemon game, it's a polished Pokemon game with so much care put into it. Every storyline and side character works here. Yes, a tad tedious, but compared to Game Freak's other titles, this was glorious. Now yes, they catch a lot of flack for how behind they are, even compared to other Nintendo franchises like Zelda and Mario. Nintendo themselves is always a bit behind too, so that doesn't help much, but we all thought Game Freak could be pushing themselves a little more, right? Well, Scarlet and Violet showed us what happens when they have a tight release window. But Game Freak has an opportunity here. A way they can prove they have what it takes to make a great RPG on modern hardware, and prove that Pokemon is still a great gaming experience and not just the biggest media franchise ever because of cards and anime. This fall with Legends ZA, Game Freak has the chance and can give us another risky game like Arceus was, so well received and praised for finally doing something different. Or they can just do what they have done for the past decade and just let it be It's fine, it's Pokemon. No! Arceus was Pokemon. That is what Pokemon should have been for years, and Game Freak should invest in taking a risk because the reward can be so beneficial. Yes, they can just slide on by like always and let Ilka do another remake for Gen 5 later on. Or they can take this time, put on their big boy pants, and show us the company we believe that they can be. Sometimes you have to take risks, especially when you are one of the most successful IPs in the world and no matter what you make will sell. That's why you use the resources you have and take a risk. You are the one company that can afford to switch it up a bit and make a game that completely shifts the gaming landscape. Hopefully in 4 months when we are playing the new Legends game, we will see all of this happen. But if not, you know where to find the peak of Game Freak's innovation and creativity. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't hesitate to leave a like and subscribe to join the foxhole and stay up to date with my newest videos. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.